Hello and welcome. It is 6 o'clock and the 6 o'clock club. Hopefully you can hear us and hopefully you can see us. Hello, Kristian. Hello, world out there. Thank you for joining us. We certainly have Stuart in chat already, saying his hellos. I hope you've all had a cracking weekend. I know I was very busy over it. Thank you very much, Stuart, for confirming that. While we wait for hopefully more people to jump into chat, we will do what we normally do. I've covered the games up to Thursday night that we ran last week, so I'm going to quickly run through how the weekend went with games, and then we're going to talk about upcoming games for this week. We'll have conversations. I know that Christian's in at least no, I think you're playing three
Three.
games
I'm
this
in
week.
three games this week.
Uh,
Which does make me think of I wonder who's got the record for the most games in a week with you, but that's
I think Michael is close. I mean, yeah, it's interesting. Jack at one point was playing in an awful lot of games as well.
yes, I would have thought it would have been here.
Yeah.
Jack.
So yeah, but great role players, but three very different games. We'll get to those in a minute. Once we've covered that, we'll probably do GM tip of the day, word of the day, and then for the sort of main event, we'll be chatting about, and I'm going to get this right, Mork Borg.
Yes.
Which I think is the correct way of pronouncing it. I do know what it is kind of translated to from Swedish, which is Dark Tower or Dark Castle. So it's an amazing looking game, and I'm going to be very keen to share it with you. So without further ado, hi to everybody in chat, lurkers and not. If you want to shout up, ask questions, please do. Hello to everybody who's watching from the future, or whether it is on Twitch or on YouTube. I'm just going to answer Stuart's game question. Stuart, you said with the stream games at one point you had 7 games in a week. You did. You
forgot
did.
about yeah.
I mean, that's going back, I think, just over a year now. But we were
that's
doing
what got me into this.
Yeah. But I do like the fact that people are now competing to who did the most games.
Who got the most Andy time?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Some of you, as I say, I see more and spend more time than you than with my good lady wife. So says quite a lot, really. Weekend was great in terms of games, as far as I'm concerned. Had a blast, always do. The Friday game was Collateral Damage, our weekly game. They certainly cracked on with the plot this time, which is unusual. They like their role playing, and they certainly they don't procrastinate. They don't follow the plot, but they enjoy just spending time role playing their characters, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But they headed off to the Moor Holds, and they've now found themselves in the Hall of Runes, which is like a massive dwarven library, and they visited the halls, the Book of Grudges, which is like tablets upon tablets of stone with names and grudges kind of written down that fills a good 2-3 stories. But they sort of examine that, and they are finding out information about the dwarves, as usual, have started digging a little too deep. Then we went on to a very busy Saturday and Sunday, 3 games each in the end. Saturday morning, Curse of Strahd, some really cracking role play going on there. They encountered Baba Lysaga. Again, Curse of Strahd is a published book, so I don't want to give too many spoilers out here, but a great encounter there and a great inter-party kind of conflict, in character conflict that didn't come to blows but dilemmas, as I like to believe the domain of dread really puts pressures on the individuals, the characters, and that is certainly being felt by them at the moment. Then we move to Tomb of Annihilation, another published adventure. So I don't particularly want to say too much there, but they did activate a deadly trap, and they need to deal with that next session, and that ended in a very exciting point. And then finally on Saturday was Critical Role, the Diplomates. Some absolutely outstanding role playing there, really, really great fun. They are getting on with um, uncovering one or two of the great sort of threats, and they've managed to endear themselves, I suppose, with the faction that they're supposed to sort of seek out and infiltrate. I'm not trying to give any spoilers away here, which is why I'm being a little bit sort of vague. And through some outstanding role playing and whatever, they did it very, very successfully. Then on Sunday, we had three other games. A mythical, my home world brew setting. Some fairly solid combat, some very dangerous encounters. They encountered a reskinned Yeti. And these are very dangerous creatures, Dungeons and Dragons, but they have this ability to sort of do this chill gaze, which causes cold damage but paralyzes individuals. And they encountered one of the um, older entities, these weird eaters, a sort of lesser one as well. And again, I kind of mentioned this earlier. It's kind of serendipity, I think, is the word, that this thing was grabbing individuals and dropping them down this pit it came out of. And Featherfall saved the day once again, which it did on our Tuesday night game as well. But great fun. The characters now are on tier 2, so sort of level 5 plus, and yeah, it's exciting as we start hitting that sort of higher tier. Mythicals are becoming still one shots, but very much more sort of linked one shots as the weird eaters reveal themselves and information is gathered by the different groups of players to bring it all together into a central plot. And then one of the games that Kristian played in our Eberron game, the Anti-Heroes, which was a blast. And
yes, it was.
Yeah, very exciting for me. Kristian has played in sort of my games for a very long time, so he's encountered a large number of characters and NPCs, and there was a very subtle hint of one that you caught up on, didn't you? And
I did, yes. Well, me and I believe Rachel's in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Rachel.
But yeah, I believe I know who it is, but I'm not. I'm not saying who it is.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
telling anyone.
No,
They can have the fun.
Yeah, we'll see. And for me as well, because I mean, the very funny thing about that encounter is, I think it was Jenny's character. Was it Jenny's character that went across? Somebody went across to bring him to your table. Who was it?
It was Malshan. It was
Malshana,
Jen's character. Yeah.
So yeah, and I just basically I gave a description of the conversation that was being had between the two NPCs, and then he kind of said, "Oh right," he said his tagline, but no one got his name or anything. So it was very exciting for me as well to kind of sort of do that advanced storytelling or foreshadowing, whatever you wish to call it. And most definitely, he will be met at some point during this. He's in the card game, obviously. You know, that was a nice thing about that final encounter is the majority of people there as you were very aware, because it was like, this is the party for people I considered to be competition. So the
Yeah, the big
majority,
movers and shakers,
yeah,
really. Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, it was a good chance to meet and greet and kind of meet some of these individuals, not all of which you have all met. So
No.
so some more additional surprises to come, and I can't say any more. But it warmed my cockles, I have to say, to bring that NPC back into the game. And then last thing after the Eberron game, we play tested um, the system I'm working on at the moment. 1920. The system itself isn't 1920s horror, but the system has been put into a 1920s scenario to play test it. Went very well as far as I'm concerned. Great positive feedback. I found it incredibly easy to run. I felt I wasn't getting bogged down with rules, which is difficult because it's incredibly light. But the players as well seem to have that space to role play. Now, they are very experienced players, and one of my big concerns with the system is, for experienced role players, it should just be fine. For new players, which it's designed for as well, will it be as good? So a lot more testing needing to go on there, but it was a great session. We all had fun. So that was last week. Thank you very much to everybody that played last week. Um, I had a great time, and I hope you all did. So we'll move rapidly on to this week's games. At the moment, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think 11 games this week so far, if they all fire.
Blimey,
The,
11.
yeah, there might be one more or one less, depending whether they fire. So
We might be running past the hour tonight, folks.
no, as I say, the main reason for doing this is um, showing you the breadth of the games, doing some name checks, but also letting people know if there's any spaces in any games, so that they can, if they want, jump in.
Join us.
Join us indeed. I'm going to quickly put our Discord link in. I should have all of this set up really um, on simply just pressing a button, but we're gonna put our Discord. There you go. Hopefully that, and if anybody is interested in joining us as a group, we've got a large number of role players, um, and they don't just play in my games; they're playing other people's games. You know, it's not, once you come into our community, we never let you leave. We also talk about other things. There's a lot of support there if people are stressed at work or whatever. People share really nice pictures of their pets, and there's a little
Food.
crafting corner and food. So
Yeah.
it's not just about role playing, and certainly not just about the games that I run. I mean, mainly it is, but that's
Well, it's your server.
it's my server. Yeah, um,
Your rules.
yeah, but everything should all be about me anyway. You know, I've always believed that. My Chinese sign is the dragon, and you know that makes everybody welcome to my lair, but my minions. Hmm. I
As
mean,
long as I've got a nice comfy seat, I
yeah,
don't care.
yes, indeed. Um, so anyway, I digress. That is the Discord. Please come and join us. I think we've lost a ton of viewers by me saying that, but oh well. Or maybe they've all gone off to join our Discord. This week's games. Tomorrow night is Vampire the Masquerade. Kristian, this is game number 1 that Kristian is in. Rachel, who's in chat, is also in it. We also have Elsa and Andrew. It's great. Love Vampire. It's a social game. It's a game of social politics, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, we are getting to the point now where backstories are beginning to come out, and this is where I think Vampire excels. Um, it's very difficult, and it's something that I've learned trying to run Chronicles, which is campaigns for Vampire. Is it should be all about the interpersonal relationships of the kindred, as they call them. Um, it's very difficult to do big stories because you escalate it so much that there's no other sort of place to go. So
Gehenna.
but
I think that's
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
White did.
It's kind of like it is difficult. So to my mind, it is all about that interpersonal sort of politics that make the more fun games, certainly for me anyway. And the other thing that I've kind of learned is when kindred are so immortal, you don't have to do everything like the next night, the next night, the next night. Um, so I am beginning to between sessions start extending and pulling the time frame. This allows quite a lot of downtime as well, so they don't have to get completely involved in all the nuts and bolts of, oh, I'm setting up a theatre in Kristian's characters thing, and it's like, well, okay, we'll go through every single boring detail of that.
You
It's
made
like,
me produce invoices.
yes, I know. Well, that's politics. So very much looking for Vampire tomorrow night. It's going to be good. Unfortunately, sold out. Um, then Mork Borg. I am so excited about this. First time we're running it. We're going to come onto it in a minute properly. We're gonna talk you through it. But yeah, super excited. It is brutal system. It's designed to be. Um, it's finite during the game. You can literally roll a dice and find out that the apocalypse has happened. Not just like, oh, yeah, everything's gone bad. No, everything was bad already. The apocalypse is it's the end of the world. It's over, and
I'm looking forward to it now.
it's a Marmite game. Not everybody's going to like it. You know, if you like your heroic fantasy, we all like hero. Well, I certainly like my heroic fantasy. This isn't that, but I'm going to come on to that more when we start discussing it. So I've never run it before. I'm not sure whether any of our players have actually played it before. Um, we do have a single space left, so if you are interested, pop across to our
Yeah.
Discord channel
There
and
are
sign up.
3 of us in it already.
Yeah,
I'm in that one, so I'm really looking forward to playing it. So if you fancy having a go, please come and join us. I think
yeah,
it's going to be. I'm going to say this now, and I'll correct people later. I think it's going to be a lot of fun,
yeah. Um,
bleak
yeah,
fun.
yeah, and don't let that apocalyptic darkness put you off. The writers of it, and again, I'll come on to this in a minute. The writers of it know they've kind of gone through that so far that it has become almost a parody of itself. Um, so if you like Dark Souls, if you like Elden Ring, um, sort of plus, uh, it's that kind of brutality. So very, very much looking forward to it. It's got a very distinct flavour, and you will be seeing it all very, very soon as I come to the end of this very long promotion of what I'm doing this week. Oh, um, Kara says apocalyptic darkness fun. Absolutely, with death metal put on the top, a little bit of side punk. Then we go to Thursday, which is Call of the Netherdeep. It's a published book set in the world of Critical Role. It's kind of global at the moment. They are across in Zorhas. Very heavy sort of role play again. Not heavy as in deep, but very good characters that are role playing their socks off. So very, very interesting and great fun to just watch the characters develop. Then we go to Friday, our weekly game of Collateral Damage. I mentioned that already. They are in this dwarven hall of knowledge, kind of uncovering what have the dwarves dug up this time. Then we move to Saturday morning. Saturday, technically, we've got 4 games. Dungeon of the Mad Mage. It's that mega dungeon beneath Waterdeep. They are progressing very, very nicely. It's exciting. It's fun. It's a dungeon bash, so a completely different feel to a lot of games. Then we move to Greyhawk Unbound. We've got a couple of spaces on this. I believe they might be sort of 9th level now, so it's getting to a sort of mid-tier campaign. Greyhawk, one of the iconic and classic Dungeons and Dragons settings. They're doing a massive sort of quest trying to find the individual parts of the Rod of Seven Parts. Then something very close to my heart because my homebrew setting is Tales of the Smoke, which Cara is on. This is my homebrew sort of world. Those of you who've seen the Untold Chronicles or even the game set in the smoke, it's kind of a very Victorian steampunk fantasy setting with the smoke being a shadowy, dark, polluted reflection of London of that sort of period. Oh, thank you, Marmalade. Hello, Elsa. Thank you very much. 34 months. That is absolutely amazing, and I very much appreciate it. So yeah, very excited about Tales from the Smoke. It's an early campaign. First session was played a couple of weeks ago. We've got some spaces in that as well. If you like your steampunky fantasy, it's one to definitely consider. Then we were going to be doing Spelljammer Cosmic Rain on Saturday night, but unfortunately, I say unfortunately, it's not really unfortunate. Jack, who should be playing in it, it's his birthday, and
No stamina.
I think he has to do something for his birthday, so he can't make it. So happy birthday, Jack, for Saturday. But we are postponing that game. So I might put something else on. Don't know what it's going to be, or I might just have Saturday night off. By off, I mean do more writing,
Play a bit more Elden Ring.
play a bit more Elden Ring. I've not played enough of that, and I don't know. Saturday night is a big question mark for me at the moment. Then we move to Sunday. I'm almost done for everybody that has fallen asleep. Sunday, 1 o'clock. We start with Mythical again, homebrew world, high fantasy magic. They've sold out. It's a one shot. It's a tier 2 game, so level 5 plus. They are beginning to find links to these weird eaters, these big bads from about 500 years ago, that they are on the rise again. And then we move to Eberron, the third and final game of the week that Kristian's in. And yeah, we're coming back to that gathering of people who are about to move into the to this card tournament, and meeting more NPCs. And there's a little bit of a cliffhanger last session where they found out there's more going on than they anticipated. So we'll see how that goes. I can't really say anything else. A big hi to Michael and Sarah if she's watching as well. Thank you for joining us. Then the last game of Sunday and the week is another Tales from the Smoke, this time at tier 2, which is level 5 plus. And very much like the Saturday game, set in that Smoke City steampunk fantasy, and very, very excited about that. Okay, so Mondays is always going to be a little bit of coming up and a reflection on what has happened the previous sort of weekend. but I did promise a few other things. So we had a quick discussion before we came on air about today's GM's tip. Um, is there anything that you want to lead off with, Christian? Because I've done a lot of talking.
No, I think I'm just really excited well, I'll say I'm really excited to hear the tip. We did talk about it earlier,
Yeah,
so
yeah. It's,
behind the curtain a little bit. But I guess it's it is about beginnings, really. So it is about how do you start something in role playing terms. I mean, the question I'd like you to maybe answer would be with the beginning of role playing sessions and the beginning of maybe one shots or campaigns. How do you bring people together? Because as players, you're all there as you kind of have to force a knowledge and force a liking of each other. Or have some hook that drags you all together. It's not just the GM's responsibility. But as a GM, how do you help facilitate that? As well as how do you start? How do you start a campaign? How do you start a one shot? What do you do, Andy?
right. And as always, I can only speak for myself. These are things that I do. They might work for you or they might not. I mean, we need to unpick that a little bit. There's two things there. First and foremost, getting the party together and sort of either ensuring they are all going to get on together and are like-minded or not. That is something I would cover in a session zero. I think it's very important to have session zeros, which I do all of the time, of course. Um, okay, maybe I don't. Um, but what's what is important is first and foremost, we've got a great community that play with me a lot, which is why I don't have session zeros. I was kind of a little bit sort of joking there.
Yeah,
Um, but if you are unfamiliar with the players, or you have new players at your table, or you're starting something new and you're not entirely sure how the players are going to react to it, a session zero is important, drawing lines and veils so that everybody around your table feels comfortable with any subject matter is key. Um, the game is of secondary importance to the well-being of everybody around the table, and that includes the game master as well. You're all basically coming together to have an evening of fun, and this, if you're doing it with your friends, maybe seems just like a no-brainer, like, well, yeah, of course. But you might go to a convention, for instance, where you are doing a pickup group. You're kind of at a table with people you don't know, a GM that you don't know. And even if I was running a convention game and I only had 3 hours to do it, I would spend a good maybe 5 minutes, quarter of an hour, ensuring everybody around the table got the gist of the feel of the game. They were feeling very comfortable. If there were any issues that they either want to speak privately or openly about, and also about safety tools such as line and veils. This isn't so much a GM's tip, but it's something that kind of has spun from your question, really, and I think it's
yeah,
important to.
yeah. It makes
Um,
everyone feel comfortable at the table because
yeah, yeah,
that's the one thing you want to make sure everyone knows what the line is
yeah,
and
yeah.
knows this is as far as we're willing to go. Some and everyone's got different things that that's where their line is, and it could be you could like the most graphical violence in the world, but I don't know the moment
Spiders
someone's showing the knees, yeah, spiders,
spiders is a perfect example. You can have individuals that love horror movies, love slasher movies. It's all special effects, etc., etc. But they have an acute phobia of something like a spider, and you might go, well, you might, because you haven't got a phobia of spiders yourself, you might think, well, no one's going to be that horrified by me describing a spider or a web or putting a miniature on the table, but it can easily trigger somebody, and you're all here for fun. You don't want that to happen, so you just don't know. And it can be something very odd, like you say, that you would just never have thought of. So it's important to have that conversation anyway. And where I'm leading from here is, what is also important to have the conversation about is the type of game that you're playing. Is this going to be a cooperative game? We've only got 3 hours. Are we going to waste time with the players arguing each other? Or are we of the like mind that you all know each other, you've worked together, you like each other, and that is how we're going to role play this for the next 3 hours?
Yeah.
Because it's a cooperative game. We've only got 3 hours to do the game. We want to have fun. Let's get on with it.
I mean, I think that's what worked well when we did the Feng Shui one shot the other day.
Yeah.
Because that was you just assume you all know each other already.
Yeah.
And thankfully, it said realised into the one shot that I knew the other player. I mean, it was me and Rachel, and there was another player that I knew fairly well anyway.
Yeah.
Back from many years ago, but if it is a complete random group, like when we did the a special session a while back, another sort of playtest, that was again kind of assumed you all know each other, assume you're all traveling together, which does help and helps you get over that stumbling block. But let's say you are in a one shot, or you are in a you've not even started a campaign yet. How do you get that ball rolling in a session? So you've got nothing. You've got some players. You've agreed the ground rules. How do you start?
Okay. Yeah. So again, it would differ depending on whether this is going to be a long-term campaign where you've got the luxury of time for the characters to relax into it, find their feet, and role play, or whether this is like a con game where you've got 3 hours to run it and you've got a time slot. You know that there's going to be another GM coming for your table. So it yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot again for the sub, Elsa. Take care. Have a great evening. So with the con game, you just have to start it. You just have to do what we've basically said, really. I mean, depending on what the scenario is, would also dictate the starting point. But for a lot of one shots, you kind of want to throw the players straight into the action. You are there. You've arrived at the castle gates. The portcullis gate is mysteriously open. What do you do? In terms of campaign games, you can be a little bit more creative if you want. There is the obvious way of starting everybody off kind of meeting each other in a tavern for whatever reason.
The traditional way,
Traditional way, and
go fight some rats.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that as well. And this isn't me going, oh, you shouldn't do that. Some of the best games start like that. It's nice and easy, but you can kind of put a twist on that if you want. We are twisted narrative. How about meeting at a wedding, which is what we did at Feng Shui? Maybe you're related to the bride or groom. This is fine whether it's a fantasy game, a science fiction game, or a modern day game. So that is kind of taking the classic start and already throwing in some perhaps plot threads or interesting. You can start the game in the middle of a battle. You are here, you have accidentally walked into an ambush and the goblins are attacking you, or whatever. Maybe it's one of the things that we're currently writing on is for some of the products that we're producing, we've created a how bad do you want your start to be? And you can literally start the game sort of with your full gear, your full hit points, all your spell slots if we're talking about D&D, but you get no bonuses for it. You can start off with 3/4 or half of your resources, but if you do, you get boons. So until you take a long rest, you get special abilities. Like, for instance, I think I Ain't Got Time to Bleed is the one that we're working on at the moment, which is from obviously Predator. But it just basically means as a bonus action, you can spend a hit dice. So you've taken the wounds because you've battled through and you found yourself deep in the dungeon. Uh, but you get the benefit of this special ability until you take a long rest and regain the wounds. And there's all sorts of different things like that. So you can throw people into the battle. And this is a discussion to have with your players, unless you know your players really well and say, well, we're going to
Yeah,
start
yeah,
like this. It's like,
yeah.
what do you want to do? Do you want to start off with a lack of resources? Um, but there's other um, ideas as well. I've used many of these. For instance, you can be awaiting trial. You can be in a dungeon, as in
That's
like
one
in
of
a
my
prison.
favorites.
You know,
Yeah, I've used that one before.
yeah. You could be getting ready to be walked the plank, on a ship, whether you are notorious pirates that have been captured by the navy, or the flip version, you're adventurers on a ship that have been captured from pirates. And there's different ways to solve this. Maybe you use your persuasion or deception to join the pirate crew. Maybe you walk the plank and you go into the water and there's something underneath that the players don't know is going to happen, but like some merfolk or whatever brings the players down to their underwater city, and the adventure starts off on a ship, and then suddenly you're embroiled in this underwater campaign or sort of story arc. So there's a whole scope of different ways that you can start your games, and give
Yeah,
them twists and spins, really.
that
Um,
all sounds really good.
so I, I suppose the tip is, think about the start, think about how you can start the game in a interesting way, really.
But make
Um,
sure your players also have get consent from your
Yeah,
players.
yeah, yeah. Because agency is important. You all
Yeah,
want to have fun around the table, and if people are not going to enjoy the very start of the game, I mean, it's going to go downhill from there.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, know your players, and just think of interesting starts, and you can be open with them. How about we start the session, well, the campaign, in the middle of a battle? How does it sound that you're all captured in a dungeon and have to find your gear and equipment and break free, etc., etc.
Yeah,
So there we go.
yeah. No, thank
Ideas
you.
and
That's
tips.
that. That's really good. Well, we
Um,
have just about 7, 8 minutes left, so
yeah, we're going
let's
to
move on
We're going to
to
overrun a little bit, or maybe not. So Merc
Mork
Borg,
Borg.
I know that Christian is waiting for this sort of conversation. So I'm going to
Yes.
have to change the thing, because hopefully I've set this up. I'm going to take you now. Everybody could access this just by going to their website, but that has not shown me the website. Let me see if we do that. I do love, all of this was working absolutely beautifully before, and now seems not to be working beautifully before. I'm assuming everybody can just see a black screen. Oh, there you
Ah,
go. It has
there
come
we
up.
go.
It has come up. It is like magic. Merc Borg. This is the game, and this is their website. Um, and like just their title page, look at that. You've got, I mean, it says so much already. You've got the graffiti sort of writing, and the way that it is just pulsating. That kind of movement is disturbing, and a lot of their content is indeed quite disturbing. So let me go to the website as well, because the odd thing is, and give this a go. There's a lot of fantastic resources here. Is that as you scroll, you can do that and make it move, but as you scroll up, sort of down rather, instead of kind of cutting across a page to do something else, it moves. So it's kind of strange, and this is very much how the rule book is written. So let's just do this. A doom metal album of a game, a spiked flail to the face, light on rules, heavy on everything else. And that really does sum it up. It's a death metal game. It's award winning. You know, Ennies, these are sort of role play awards, best writing, best layout section, product of the year, best game, best supplement, best online content. It's won a large amount of awards, and very very sort of justified. And again, the imagery, the skulls, the horns, everything is sort of rock and roll. I'm doing lots of gestures here, and you can't see me because you're looking at the website. Again, the rule book as you flick through, they play with your mind. The layout of it is discordant. It's the character generation is all over the place. And it's done deliberately. It's not like some role-playing books that we're aware of that is just badly laid out. The book is akin to sort of like a work of art in itself, and I'll come on to some of the pages in a minute. So as we kind of slowly go down here, one day all will blacken and burn, and then as you've got used to it scrolling upwards, suddenly as you scroll down, other things come across here. This is the cover. Um, Death by Dice, Mork Borg, a pitch black apocalyptic fantasy role play game about lost souls and fools seeking redemption, forgiveness, or the last remaining riches in a bleak and dying world. The game design and the text was done by Pelle Nielsen, graphic designer and art Johan Nor, and it was originally published in Swedish, I believe, and it has been translated by someone who's designed their own games. I'll come on to him in a minute. And as we now sort of got used to the scrolling up and down, it's now scrolling side to side. All of this is pages from the book as well, but it's this particular page, this here, hit points. You can see that they've done style over trying to squeeze text onto pages, and the layout of it is confusing and disturbing. There's little subtleties as well, like hit points, HP. It begins with your toughness plus a D8. In the worst case, one, but never less. I mean, they're being very generous there. Okay, you can have one hit point. We're not going to kill you during character generation. They probably are thinking about that. And then 0 hit points means that you're broken. Negative hit points mean that you're dead. But even here, there's this lovely arrow that kind of comes around to tell you what broken is about. And there are all sorts of things. You've got a 25% of being dead, even if you're broken. Um, the game rules I'll come on to in a minute because there's a cheat sheet at the end. But again, this text: confront power draining necromancers, skulking skeletal warriors, and backstabbing wickheads. Wander the valley of the unfortunate undead, the catacombs beneath the Bergen crypt, or the bedeviled Sarkasht forest. But leave hope behind. The world's cruel fate is sealed, and all of your vain heroic efforts are destined to end in death and dismay. Or are they?
Sounds aspirational.
Yeah. Or are they?
I'm looking forward to this. I'm so
Uh,
looking forward to this.
and again, they play with your mind here. You've just got used to it sort of sideways scrolling, and then suddenly, oh God, it's coming up from here. Um, and here's sort of a little bit more sort of information. Mork Borg is a complete game in the OSR genre. The OSR genre, just for those of you who are unfamiliar, it kind of stands for old school Renaissance or old school revival. And what that fundamentally means is like old role playing games, like the very earliest Dungeons and Dragons. And for those of you who are not familiar with those systems, it's very much brutal. You as players and as characters are going to struggle if you just go toe to toe in combat with these things. You have to work together, but also find cunning ways of disarming traps and dealing with the foes. And unlike modern day role playing games where you've all got sort of skills and skill checks and you kind of go, well, actually, then I'm going to sort of pick locks and everything else. There aren't really skills within the game like that. You've got statistical skills, strength, agility, and the like, and it would probably be based off that. But there's no holding your hand and going, well, you've got thieves tools proficiency, maybe you should use that. It's like, oh dear, there's a door. Do we try and pick the lock? Do we try and just force it down? Is it trapped? Don't know. Are we looking for traps? Yeah, let's look for traps. How do we do that? And you as players, you make those decisions, and this is what they kind of mean by old school Renaissance. I mean, I played those games back in the day, and it's really odd thinking back to those times because we did it, but we kind of did it without rules, if you know what I mean. And you kind of get used to systems changing and you get comfortable with the new sort of systems that you sort of play. And you don't really think back and go, how on earth did we ever do it? But that question, looking at this system, with it being a kind of reflection of that style of game, not mechanically, but that style of game, is really quite interesting. Um, the this is on the website, so you can kind of read all of this text here. I just want to run you through the website somewhat, and it starts coming up here. There is a ton of reference material here, and a ton of very generous free downloads that you can get. You can download the bare bones rules, as they call them. It's the rules without artwork for free if you want. There's kind of reference sheets here. And the way the system works basically is the characters have stats. They have agility, presence, strength, and toughness. Um, what you do is you roll 3d6, but you don't roll 3d6 and add them together and that's your stat. No, you roll 3d6, and depending on the number that you get, it gives you modifiers to your d20 roll. Now this can be -1, or even lower in some cases, going up to I think +3. Um, and then you would roll a d20, add it to that dice roll, and then you compare that to a difficulty rating. You can see the difficulty ratings here. 6 is incredibly simple, 8 is routine, 10 is pretty simple, 12 is normal, 14 is difficult, 16 is really hard, and 18 is should not be possible. So the standard difficulty rating is 12, and bearing in mind the average modifier you will have is probably 0. You're going to be needing to roll a d12 or higher just to get a normal success. It's very interesting as well because it puts the onus on dice rolling on the players. The GM doesn't really roll that many dice. In combat, you roll to hit and then you roll to dodge. All I have to say is the creature is attacking you, and then you need to succeed on your dodge roll, or it hits you, and then it will do damage to you. Certain virtual tabletops that support Mork Borg, they also force the player to roll the damage that is done to them, making it even more
Ooh.
brutal.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah,
Ouch.
yeah. So it really feels that the the players, whilst have complete agency, they're also the harbingers of their own demise, as it were. Really,
Oh.
it's brutal as well, as you kind of saw earlier. Hit points is your toughness plus a D8. Um, you could easily start off with only a couple of hit points. Weapons, a great sword will do 1d10 points of damage. A femur will do 1d4 points of damage. So it's brutal. It's scary. Um, so I kind of talked to roughly about the system there. These kind of very cool kind of character sheets that you've got here that they've done. The bare bones edition, this is new that they've put on here. It's a free PDF, no art except the cover image, just for the text without fancy fonts or experimental graphic design. The experimental graphic design, as I say, is discordant, and it's outstanding. What it reminded me of, and I'm showing my age here, is for those of you who remember the fantastic Les Dawson, the comedian.
I don't know where you're going with this.
Yeah, no. This is a testament to him. He was an exceptional piano player.
Yes, now I do. Yeah.
He was a pianist. You know, this is one of the things that he excelled at. But what he could do is play rung and discordant to make him sound like he was not very good at the piano for comedic effect. And it takes real skill to be able to do that with music. And he was expert at it. And the graphic design here has made it confusing. You kind of begin to lose your own sanity as you kind of look at these pages, as the fonts are different, and you have to sometimes perhaps turn the book to read important lines like, if you were to roll a 1 here, you will die. It's an interactive experience as well as teaching the rules, and there's not a lot of rules to learn. There's some very, very atmospheric lore within it, and it starts off with the lore. You kind of, if you get a rule book, you kind of open up and expect sort of rules or guidance. They even put the index at the back, so you don't even start off with opening up. Oh right, I'll go to character generation then. That is not hidden at the back, but at the back of the book. And if for nothing else, it is experimental graphic design, but it's very, 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 very cool if you like that kind of thing, really. And then
there is a character generator as well. Sorry,
yeah. There
probably going
is,
to come on to that.
yeah.
Scum Bertha.
For those of you who either hate paper or really in a hurry, Scum Bertha is again brilliant language. Is the official Mork Borg character generator. You can just click it, it will generate characters. They've got the same thing for dungeons here. They've got the same thing for creatures. All of this support they've got. This, I believe, this is in the main rulebook as well, but it's free to download if you want. I mean, try before you buy, but if you can, support them, because this is I fully recommend it if this is your kind of thing. So yeah, there's all sorts. There's additional character classes here, and you won't find any. I am a wizard, or I am a mighty paladin. There is. It's all grubby and dark and dangerous. Magic in the world is done through scrolls, and if you fail on reading a scroll which requires a roll, it can do 1d2 points to you, and if you've only got 2 hit points, literally trying to cast the spell can kill you, or rather your character.
Well, this one I've just generated has only got 2 hit points. You
Yeah.
are Catler, gutter-born scum.
Yeah, no, it's
in their equipment. is a water skin, a short sword, a sack, a bomb, and lard.
Lard. And again, it kind of sounds strange, but you'd be surprised that lard might well be the thing that saves all the party. As I say, bringing it back to that old school Renaissance, it's like being creative with that. Does that mean you can grease the hinges so they don't squeak as you open it? Can you grease your wrist to pull off the manacles? All sorts of things, really.
Or
What
grease one of the other players and run away whilst the monster eats them.
Yeah. One of the very important things, they've got this Merk Borg cult, which is inviting people to create using their system. And this is an important point because whilst it is dark and apocalyptic, um, they are also aware. It's this kind of statement here, which I can highlight. We want it dark, depressing, and cruel, but we'll never accept racist, sexist, homophobic, or transphobic content. So even these, we mentioned it before about lines and veils. They have drawn completely rightfully so, and made it totally clear that their writings don't include this content, and they will not accept anybody using their system using this kind of content as well. It's just something I want to highlight because they are very much a very cool company. So there's all sorts of other free things as well. I definitely would recommend you going and having a play around on their website. And if you fancy it, uh, you know, buy the PDF or the game. I know
Come join
that,
us. Come
yeah,
join us on Wednesday.
we,
There's a
we
space. There is one space.
we do have a space left. If and this I've got a feeling this is the kind of game I'm going to want to write some homebrew for, and also kind of run more often, because there's a lot of scope for interesting sort of interactions there. Um, if you've enjoyed this very brief sort of discussion about it, um, let us know. I can go deeper into the rules. We might even, this is the kind of game that I wouldn't mind doing an actual play of at some point as well. So we might actually sort that out as well. Let's see if we can get our gorgeous faces back. Look, it's sort of worked now. Look at that. We are back. So sorry for the little bit of an extended one, but I did want to. Uh, I kind of underestimated how long it was going to take about the games that we're running this week, and then
I told you.
yeah, no, it's okay. I mean, if this was any other day than Monday, I would be starting a game in 3 minutes. So that's the reason why we have to sort of cut it to about quarter to. But I'm going to go on a date night with my good lady wife now. So
Go and enjoy.
I believe I've got cheese and wine. So
Ooh,
it's going to be a great evening.
very nice. What kind of wine? Red,
It's
white,
red wine, red
pink?
wine, red wine, red wine. It's going to be nice. So thank you very much, Kristian. As always, you make my life so much easier when you are here rather than me just talking to myself.
You're
Thank
the
you.
only person that says that.
Thank you very much, everybody in chat. Listen to us babble on. I hope it's been informative and useful. We will be back same time, same channel tomorrow night with the 6 o'clock club. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening, all of you. Take care, stay safe, look after each other. We will catch you tomorrow night. See you
See you tomorrow
soon.
night, everyone. Bye.
Bye.